You overslept. You're rushing out the door. You reach for your mug, and suddenly, coffee is everywhere. It's usually the next thing that breaks your patience. You throw some bread in the toaster, turn around to clean up the mess, and smoke starts rising. Your breakfast is entirely charred. Biologically, your brain treats this minor kitchen mishap the exact same way it treats a lurking predator. The sudden stress triggers an immediate fight-or-flight reaction, flooding your system with adrenaline. A single ruined slice of bread isn't physically dangerous, but these daily micro-stressors stack up. The traffic jam, the missing keys, the spilled coffee, they sustain elevated cortisol levels, pushing your body slowly toward chronic burnout. But consider those extra 3 minutes you spent scraping off the burnt edges. What if that tiny delay kept you from merging onto the highway at the exact moment a severe accident occurred? This is the premise of the viral burnt toast theory. It suggests that minor inconveniences actually act as protective barriers against unseen dangers. Is this just internet pseudoscience, or is it a legitimate neurological survival tool? The theory operates on a specific premise. A seemingly negative micro-delay diverts your timeline just enough to keep you out of harm's way. History is full of these narrow misses. Michael Jackson reportedly stayed up late talking to his family on September 10, 2001. Because of that, he overslept the next morning and missed a scheduled meeting at the World Trade Center. These random logistical shifts work in the opposite direction too. Marilyn Monroe was inspecting parachutes in a World War II defense plant when an Army photographer happened to tour the facility, snapping the picture that launched her modeling career. Or take the thousands of international flights diverted to Newfoundland in the wake of the 9/11 attacks. Among the stranded passengers were 2 strangers from completely different countries who ended up meeting, falling in love, and marrying. We can rarely prove whether missing a green light saved our own lives, but looking at the delay through this lens changes the narrative from one of failure to one of protection. This is a diagram showing what happens inside your brain the exact second an inconvenience occurs. Instantly, your amygdala registers the delay as a threat. In a typical reaction, that alarm goes unchecked. The signal pushes your nervous system into a state of sympathetic arousal, and a rising bar graph shows your cortisol levels spiking as you start to catastrophize. Psychology offers a tool called cognitive reappraisal. When you pause and ask, "What if this is happening for me?" that specific thought acts as a neurological circuit breaker. That intentional pause activates the prefrontal cortex right at the front of your brain. This higher-level thinking center overrides the panicked amygdala, dropping your cortisol levels and shifting your body into a calm, regulated state. The burnt toast theory is a Trojan horse for what psychologists call polyvagal theory, a practical, everyday method to trick your own nervous system into self-regulation. This is entirely different from toxic positivity. Throwing glitter on a real problem and pretending everything is fine is dismissive, and it prevents you from actually processing difficult emotions. Under this framework, you are fully allowed to feel genuine frustration that your breakfast is ruined. The goal is simply to prevent that initial valid frustration from mutating into a helpless, day-ruining spiral. There are valid psychological caveats here. Humans are deeply prone to apophenia, the tendency to find meaningful patterns in random noise, along with a heavy dose of confirmation bias. But the lack of objective proof doesn't negate the benefits. Even if the burnt toast didn't actually save you from a car crash, the real-world reduction in your stress hormones makes the exercise scientifically beneficial. Using these daily setbacks as cognitive exercises transforms a chaotic morning into a deliberate training ground for emotional stability. Clinical psychologists measure something called distress tolerance. It is your ability to endure emotional discomfort and uncertainty without lashing out or making the situation worse. By treating minor frustrations as a low-stakes practice gym, you actively build those cognitive muscles. Repeatedly choosing to reframe negative events physically thickens the specific neural pathways inside your brain associated with learned optimism. Building this distress tolerance on trivial things, like hitting a red light or forgetting your keys, physically prepares your brain to maintain resilience when actual severe tragedies strike. It is impossible to engineer a daily routine completely free from chaos and unpredictable variables. Things will inevitably go wrong. but you possess total control over how your nervous system responds to those variables. By consciously shifting your perspective, you transform a ruined slice of bread from a physiological trigger into a biological